Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with Transformers and this issue is amazing. So this picks up on the events of the last issue where Cybertron is brought into Earth's orbit and is basically funneling energy from Earth to Cybertron. We see Beachcomber surfing on water, kind of scouting out the area, which looks dope. And we see someone say, "Do you remember the first time we met?" And we realize that the person that is saying this is RC. She is talking to Ultra Magnus, and RC feels guilt for leaving her master behind. But to be fair, she didn't really know he was alive at this time, being tortured by Shockwave. We didn't see Elita 1 walk in, and she makes this comment to RC saying, "It doesn't matter what he does or doesn't get. You made a choice, you abandoned the cause." And before she could finish her sentence, RC just straight up decks Elita. Like, just straight up just decks her for what she said. And RC tells Elita, "You do not know me." And this is just one of the things we have seen so far in this story on how different Elita is in terms of a leader. But we see Carly ask what happened to Magnus. And RC tells her that Magnus was a victim of Shockwave and his experiments. And Carly responds, asking, "Is that the same Shockwave that has Jazz and Cliffjumper?" And RC tells her, "Yes, it is." And so we see Optimus ask Wheeljack, how is Magnus's repairs coming along? Which basically he explains that without Ratchet doing all this, they will pretty much use up all of their Energon reserves to just bring Magnus back to full health, and that they could instead bring other warriors back online. Which then we see Magnus jump into this conversation, telling Optimus that he must be part of this new resistance and that he wants to fight. I really like how gung-ho Magnus is on getting his get back against Shockwave and the Decepticons, but we're just gonna have to wait and see. So we switch over to the Decepticon side of things, which then we see Soundwave talking to Shockwave, telling him that the portal back to Cybertron has been repaired, in which we see Soundwave ask if he can repair his dear Ravage, which then Shockwave, being a dick, just shoots down immediately, telling Soundwave that, you know, there's bigger fish to fry, basically. I mean, like, this is just a dick move by Shockwave. Let him revive his damn Ravage, man. But we see Shockwave enter the portal, which we see the rest of the Combaticons, and it's really cool to see them here again. And it's also funny that they colored Blastoff, his like forehead, as an eye instead of his eyes. It's like a G1 episode error. I don't know. Really funny. I don't know if it's intentional or not, but basically what's going on here is the Combaticons are getting very impatient as they are asking Shockwave if they can enter the portal and see what this other planet is like, you know, Earth, and knowing the status on Onslaught and Brawl. And it's still crazy to me how Brawl is missing half his torso and yet he's still kicking. But Shockwave shoots them down immediately, telling him to be silent and calling them dogs and to not worry about such matters. And here we see Shockwave acting as this mad scientist yet again, as he's marveled at all the power that is being displayed from them harvesting the Earth and going to Cybertron. And yeah, Shockwave can't be trusted, man. But we switch back to Wheeljack and Optimus, and they are in the final phase of launching their assault on the Nemesis, as they end up deciding to go and attack the Nemesis and basically blow it up, since it's the connection port between Cybertron and the Earth. And Elita mentions how it won't be easy considering what they saw what Shockwave can do, and how it will be hard to rescue Cliff and Jazz. And again, people here might disagree with Elita here, and it shows how different Elita and Optimus are, as Optimus' whole plan here is to really just rescue Jazz and Cliff, saying that they have to go rescue their warriors, which then Elita snaps at Optimus, asking him to rescue our warriors. What happened when the great Optimus Prime left, and it was all up to Elita to save all the people on Cybertron and all the soldiers that were being ground to death by Shockwave and the Decepticons. And we saw this kind of back and forth last issue on how different they are in terms of leading, but Optimus calmly responds to Elita, saying he understands her anger, but Jazz and Cliff and the Earth are in mortal danger, and that they must save them and the planet. And as Optimus says this, Elita rebuttals, asking him what about Cybertron, and what about leaving it to Shockwave again, except this time with more energy, and that it would be a really bad move for them to just fully abandon Cybertron and the other Autobots on the planet. And I really do think Elita 1 here does have good intentions in terms of being a leader, but I think she's thinking too small here, as Optimus is kind of looking at the whole grand, you know, scheme of things, as he wants to save the humans, he wants to save his soldiers, and he wants to prevent another planet falling to how Cybertron did with the Great War. Whereas Elita just kind of wants to go back and save her soldiers on Cybertron and fully put down Shockwave. It's really interesting. I just think Elita is just thinking too small here, as Optimus kind of wants to prevent a whole other catastrophe, that being Earth. But we shift to RC and Carly, and RC seems a lot more colder now, saying that the Decepticons don't deserve to exist. And as Carly's hearing her say all of this, Carly has a look of concern similar to what RC did to Carly back a couple of issues, and I really do like this character development that Carly is getting, as she's now showing concern of how extreme one's mindset is if it's all just devoted to revenge, Whereas that's exactly how she was a couple issues back, and it was RC trying to reel her back in by being, you know, an Iron Apprentice and all that for Carly. So it's just really cool to see how now the tables have turned. But we see Alita walk in and tells RC that it's still good to see that she still has a fire inside her. And we go back to Optimus, who has a flashback of him and Ratchet. And I really like how in this like flashback, it kind of has the same render look as the old Marvel comics. Just a cool little, you know, detail they did. I really like it. But a flashback of Optimus and Ratchet, kind of reminiscing on the earlier days on Cybertron. And when Alita asks Optimus what he is doing, this part here I really don't like when it comes to Alita, as Optimus responds with, he was thinking of an Autobot who is now gone. And Alita responds with, add him to the pile of the dead, I suppose. And Optimus tells Alita that Ratchet said, I was too concerned with this world, but I brought this war to them and they need us now, more than ever. And Alita simply responds with, we all have our own problems, Optimus. Which she kind of just like brushes off the whole thing he said, but Optimus just calmly says that is true. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of just like a dick move by Alita, just like, oh, anyways, we all have our own problems, man. but Optimus says that he has this feeling that in order for them to survive, they will need the humans as well. Which then Alita asks him if a bull rush on the Nemesis is the move, and if it is, it won't work. But Optimus asks Alita, among all the Autobots, who has teleportation abilities, which then Alita responds with none, which is true, but Skywarp's coding has allowed them to go and teleport, and that he is willing to help them. And to anyone who is really confused as to why Skywarp is like helping the Autobots now, it's basically because like in the first volume, we literally saw Starscream and Soundwave tear Skywarp apart and merge them with Teletran 1, so now he's just kind of like, yeah man, Decepticons aren't really all that, they just left me here. So he's just kind of helping the Autobots. I wouldn't say he's an Autobot per se, but he just really doesn't like the Decepticons right now because of what they did to him. And I don't blame him, bro, because that's like really messed up. Like that's like Shockwave-esque like torture for what they did to Skywarp. But as they are all finally getting ready to get geared up for this mission, basically what we learn here that the plan of action is a search and destroy type thing. They're going to go search for Jazz and Cliffjumper, rescue them, and they're going to destroy the Nemesis by using explosives. It sounds like a really good plan on paper, but what's also nice here is there's gonna be two teams. There's gonna be Optimus Prime, Alita, RC, and then they'll have Ultra Magnus and Wheeljack as backup. And we see that Carly wants to go, but Optimus and RC deny this request, and that RC promises to save Cliffjumper, and they go on their assault. We shift back to Beachcomber and Spike here, who have kind of just been weighing out their options on how to help, which Beachcomber doesn't really want to anyways. He believes that there really is nothing to do, and that it's best to go find another quiet area on this planet before it basically just, you know, gets destroyed. And I also do love here how Astro Train is just still like chained up and like asking to be released and to like fight Beachcomber. But we see the next page, we see a deer get vaporized, which reminds Spike of when Optimus stepped on the deer and how meaningful that moment was for him and Optimus. Which then he tells Beachcomber that he understands how he feels and how it feels it is wrong to fight, but that he thinks that he doesn't have to, but they just can't run away. And this whole moment here is really dope, and I really love how Daniel Warren Johnson is threading these earlier events that were impactful to Spike and Optimus and bringing it back for Spike to rise up to the occasion. Hats off to DWJ as always. But we shift to the Nemesis, which we see the Moonbase Bros getting tortured by Shockwave, and Jazz, being the goat that he is, really isn't listening to anything Shockwave says, which then Shockwave slaps Jazz, telling Jazz that please do not smear your bravery with musical platitudes, which then we see Shockwave go over to Cliffjumper, who looks a lot more rough than Jazz, and Shockwave says, if I want to see what you've experienced in this new world, I can just take it from the source. Which then we see Optimus arrive, telling Shockwave that he will do no such thing and to drop the tool. And we see Optimus release Jazz and Cliff, and while he is doing that, Alita comes into the room telling Optimus that the charges have been planted, and we see and that this plan is going to start to crumble really fast, as RC walks up to Shockwave and starts to taunt him, asking him how does it feel to be on the other side, when Optimus tells RC to stop and telling her to remember how far along she has come, which then we see Shockwave just sidekicks RC as Optimus is telling her all that, calls them fools, and takes Cliffjumper as hostage, and tells him to not take another step, which then Alita calls Shockwave a coward, and Shockwave runs out of the room, which we see in the other room are the Constructicons, which then Shockwave tells them to combine into Devastator. And just as all hope seems to be lost, Optimus tells Alita to not worry as they have backup, which we see the City Commander and Wheeljack on the ready to foil the Cons' plan, just for only to see Magnus stare into Shockwave, remembering what Shockwave has done to him. All these years he's been tortured and literally skinned alive, and Magnus tells Optimus that he's sorry and that he can't do this, which then we see Ultra Magnus run away. Which then we see Shockwave laugh and says he broke his mind and now he will destroy everyone's bodies here. And that's how this issue ends. I'm really curious to know what the Autobots will do to get out of this sort of situation. They might just have to blow up the whole Nemesis, taking everyone down with them. And I also really believe that Magnus will return next issue. I really doubt that Warren Johnson will leave us like this, because he's been teased since this volume's been out. And now that he's finally here and for him to run away, it is kind of like a sour moment. It's like it's a super bait moment, but like we all know he's gonna be back. I'm not really worried. I know some people might call him a coward and it's cowardice, but to be fair, he was literally skinned alive and tortured for years. But I would love to know your guys' thoughts on this issue. Sorry if I sound a little off. I woke up today with a nasty cold, but I still want to get this video out to you guys. But leave a like on the video and subscribe for more TF Comics, and I will catch you guys in the next one.